everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hello everyone, my name is Zara and I would like to show you guys my presentation about camera and photography. So without any further ado, let's start. Hello everyone, my name is Zara and I would like to show you guys my presentation about camera and photography. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Let's get started. Camera and photography. Camera is one among those devices that comes with various types. There are numerous camera types and every type have its own strength and weakness. The first one is point and shoot. Point and shoot camera is a camera that has an autofocus and a built-in flash component. It's usually used by non-professional because it's super simple. The advantage of using point and shoot camera is that it is very easy to use. This camera is a great choice when you need to take a simple and quick image without manually adjusting the settings. The disadvantage is that this camera do not give you much control over the image because this camera gives no option to manually set the shutter speed, the focus, and aperture. So it is not the right choice for you who wants more control over the images. Next is prosumer or bridge camera. It's called bridge camera because it bridges the gap between a point and shoot and a full DSLR. This camera will give you more control over the image but will not have all the options that might be available on a full DSLR. The main thing is that the lens in this camera is permanently attached to the camera and cannot be removed unlike the DSLR. Bridge camera benefit and drawback is basically a double-edged sword. Why? Because both of them are related to the lens. The benefit is that you do not have to spend lots of money on different lenses or be confused to choose what lens to get or what lens to put on at a certain situation. And by that, you do not need a big heavy camera bag with tons of lenses in it. The drawback is you will stuck with the lens forever. It's not good when you face certain situations that the bridge camera lens cannot cover. The last but definitely not the least is the famous DSLR. DSLR is the abbreviation of digital single lens reflex. The digital means it uses digital sensor instead of a film. The single lens means that this camera uses the same lens for framing, focusing, and taking the image. And the reflex means a system where the mirror inside the camera body will reflect lights that come through the lens and up to the optical viewfinder. How a DSLR camera works? So few things are happening after you press the shutter button. The mirror inside the camera will flip up, and the light that is coming directly through the lens will hit the sensor on the back. But in front of the sensor, there is a shutter mechanism that has a cover. When the cover opens up, it begins exposure time, and will close after the exposure time ends. The time from the moment that the digital sensor is exposed until the end is what is called shutter speed. Like any other camera, DSLR have its own pros and cons. DSLR pros are, the first one is the interchangeable lenses. Interchangeable lenses allows you to combine the camera body with other types of lens attachment. The second one is the camera large sensor can be very useful to shoot an image in faint lighting because more light can be captured by its large sensor. The third one is the DSLR battery life are also need only little power because the digital screen is not required to be on all the time. The cons are, the first one is the DSLR camera are pricey. The second one is it have a quite big and heavy body so it can cause some pain when you need to carry it around on the neck for a long time. The third one is the DSLR complexity make new user needs to invest a lot of time to learn all the feature. The last one is the movement from the mirror when it flips up can make the camera shake slightly and it can affect image stability. Next is camera equipment. The first one is a tripod, a 3-leg stand used to stabilize a camera. A tripod is used to help minimize the risk of any movement. The second one is camera lens, an optical device used to transmit light to this viewfinder or image sensor to form images. Lenses are super important, whether it's standard lens, telephoto, until special lens like fisheye, because without lens, the only image that we get is white light. The third one is remote shutter. Remote shutter is a remote to release the shutter remotely without touching camera shutter button. It helps to minimize camera shake. The last one is camera bag. Of course, it is used to carry the camera and other equipment. Even though we can use the regular bag or backpack, it is better to use camera bag because it's more practical and specifically designed for camera and other equipment. Before we continue to photography in the next slide, I want to briefly explain about file format for images. This three is some file format for images. The first one is RAW file. This file format contains unprocessed data directly from the digital sensor. RAW images hold a lot of image information because it has no compression. RAW file also have larger color spec. The quality from RAW file will not be changed no matter how much it's rendered because it has lossy compression. The second one is JPEG. It is one of the most common file format and that is known for its lossy compression, means that some information will be lost. The third one is TIFF. It mostly used to send high resolution image externally. It is a lossless image format. Now we're on to photography. These are some different types of photography. The first one is food photography. Food photography includes all things that are related to food, from the fresh ingredients, making process to the plating. The images are usually used in food blogs, cookbooks, etc. To enhance the beauty of food photography, a photographer usually collaborates with a food stylist. It usually shot from overhead or 45-degree angle perspective. For food photography, it is great to use low aperture to highlight specific point of the food. But when it comes to shoot a table full of fish, it is better to use higher aperture to make sure that everything on the table are visible. Next is wedding photography. Wedding photographer can shoot from the engagement day until the wedding ceremony. Wedding photographer has two main styles. The traditional style where photographer have more control and direction, and the photojournalistic style where the photographer has less control, thus create more candid images. When taking a wedding photography, the preparation is the key because so much can go wrong during the events. Prepare the backup battery, memory cards, planning the shots, even think about the route to get to the venue. Test the camera in advance and bring the secondary camera in case something bad happens. Next is fashion photography. Fashion photography is one of the oldest type of photography. It captures models with fashion clothing and accessories. These images are often shows up in a magazine or in the clothing line. These pictures can be taken either inside a studio or many other places. Understanding the rule of third is necessary. The other tips are to ask the model to move around, playing their hair, and turning different kind of facial expression. Next is landscape photography. This photography is more focused on capturing the mother nature or the natural aspect of the world, or the man-made landscape like farms, gardens, and many more. The interesting thing of a great landscape photograph is that viewers should get the feeling of being actually there. To make the landscape photography as beautiful as the scenery and does not look flat and boring, is that photographer need to understand the landscape itself, because a different landscape have different approach. For example, is when there is a water around, use it to catch a reflection. If the goal is to capture a waterfall or moving cloud, capture its movement using slower shutter speed. Also try different kinds of perspective by getting low or high shot or shoot through something. Using mid-range aperture is also an option when the scenery is includes with visual elements from the foreground to the background. The last one is cityscape photography, or an urban version of landscape photography. It implies the aspects of a city. This type of photography does not have boundaries. It can be busy intersections, malls at the night, or even taking a picture of a person in the sea of citizens. To get amazing images of cityscape, it is good to find a nice spot that can show all of the buildings and light. Also use long exposure techniques to get trails of light from cars or any other vehicles. Camera buying guide. Think what is the camera for and how often the camera will be used. It is because certain cameras might not be suitable for certain scenarios, And if the camera will be frequently used, it is okay to invest in more pricey camera to be sure that the camera will last for a long time. The second one is, before deciding which camera to get, it is better for people to read camera related articles as many as they can. It really gives that fully understanding from the camera structure to how each type of camera works. It is helpful to ask for advice from family or friends that have more experience in the world of camera and photography. Knowing the budget is important. By knowing the budget, you can decide in what price range you can choose and which camera to buy. For beginner, it is best for you to buy cameras that are beginner friendly, especially if the camera will not be used frequently. After collecting this information, choose the right camera brands and model to buy. Read a lot of user review on that camera to know other user experiences. And if it's possible, rent or borrow the chosen camera to get to know how it felt holding the camera. Also take some pictures and see the result. It is better to buy new camera than used camera because low change it will survive for a longer time. One is buy the camera in a trusted place, especially the pricey one. From my research about camera and photography, I can conclude that the art of photography and camera changed over time after the invention of camera obscura. Different types of camera get produced from time to time and it makes different type of photography more artistic. By that, taking different kind of photography is become easier than before. The existing of different kind of camera are also helpful because it can match a variety of scenarios. Without camera, people are unable to capture the moment, the smile, and the beauty of life. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice day. Bye!